After we had left Vienna and gone through a period of restless traveling, Lucille and I found in Saint-Sulpice on Lake Geneva a place that became more to us than a temporary refuge. What had been intended as a short stay turned into a home. The small house with its garden sloping down toward the lake gave us the peace we urgently needed after years of public struggles, artistic conflicts, and social obligations. In this landscape, which Lucille called her fairy home, we lived simply but happily. Here I worked without external pressure. Here not only our garden grew, but also a work that had occupied me inwardly for years. Out of an earlier prologue, Kain, a self-contained drama, gradually took shape. Kain and Abel. I had begun and discarded many drafts. Now, however, the work acquired firm form, independent of Byron's Kain and free of all philosophizing. I did not want a drama of ideas, but an elemental work in a single act. A piece embodying the primal problem of all mystical poetry, the struggle of the lower against the higher human being within man himself. I transformed the figure of Lilith. In my version, she became the companion in eternal light, Lilith with starry hair. Only through Adam's fall does the path divide, downward toward Eve, the earthly one. Cain appears as the fruit of this fall, Abel and Ada as Lilith's children. I have slain him. This cry of Cain, relentless, without explanation or justification, concludes the drama. I wrote most of the verses in the woods of Mont d'Or. The work was completed in Saint-Sulpice. I remember a hot August evening. I read the finished poem aloud to Lucille. Afterwards, we stood silently at the open window. Over the dark lake, the moon had risen, eerily blood-red. In the midst of our cheerful life, this serious work came into being. I devoted the entire summer of that year and part of the next to composing Kain and Abel. Our future plan was firmly set. A few more years of traveling, and we would have enough. In Saint-Sulpice, we wished to spend most of the year. During several winter months, a pied-à-terre in Vienna was to enable us to give our concerts there. It was too beautifully devised to become reality. Meanwhile, our reputation abroad continued to grow. Thus, I entered a phase in which I was perceived not only as a conductor, but also as a creative composer for the stage. Shortly before my 50th birthday, something decisive occurred. The new director of the Darmstadt Court Theater, Dr. Paul Eger, inquired whether I would entrust Kain and Abel to him for its premiere at the Spring Festival of 1914. The director of Universal Edition advised me to accept the invitation. I traveled to Darmstadt to form my own impression. What I found there convinced me. Eger was a highly capable, clear-minded, and far-sighted theater director. The performances I saw commanded my highest respect. I was especially impressed by Grand Duke Ernst Ludwig. Witty, gracious, and endowed with refined artistic sensibility, he was far more an aesthete than a soldier. His interest lay in the theater. Once I remarked in conversation that he ought really to be Grand Duke of Weimar. "Then let us make Darmstadt into a new Weimar," he replied. These words were more than a polite phrase. I was dining with Dr. Eger when he suddenly exclaimed, "Come and join us." He outlined a plan. I was to take over a large number of performances, advise the theater, and conduct the court orchestra. Lucille was to be engaged as a permanent guest. My desire to settle down had not died. I resisted the title of General Music Director, but the Grand Duke insisted. He also appointed me by special decree as his artistic advisor. Thus, the contract was concluded. Good forces were found for the performance of Kain and Abel. 4 roles were excellently cast. Only for Ada did I wish Lucille's participation. The orchestra was also reinforced. The conditions were favorable. After an exhausting winter, we arrived in Darmstadt for rehearsals and were received with great courtesy. The premiere of Kain und Abel bore the character of a major first performance. Numerous theater directors had arrived, among them my successor in Vienna, director Gregor, as well as many critics. The reports were almost uniformly good, in many cases even glowing. Soon Kain und Abel was acquired by the Vienna Court Opera, the German State Theater in Prague, and several theaters in the German Reich. Russell scheduled the work for the following winter in Boston. The directors of the Théâtre de la Monnaie in Brussels also accepted it and invited me to conduct personally. The Paris Figaro devoted a full page to musical excerpts from it, and its chief critic, who had come to Darmstadt, undertook the French translation. At last, I was recognized not only in Germany, but had entered the international sphere with a stage creation of my own. My appointment was now published. We rented a pleasant and quietly situated house, ordered furniture, and had some items we could spare sent from St. Sulpice, which was to remain our summer residence, to Darmstadt. Then, like a lightning bolt, came the news of the assassination of the Austrian heir to the throne and his wife. For weeks, there was talk only of investigations, and no political steps were reported. Gradually, the ominous feeling of threatened peace subsided. The ultimatum to Serbia brought the threatening danger immediately before our eyes. The measured and extremely conciliatory reply allowed us to breathe again, until Austria's hasty declaration of war left only the hope that the conflict might remain localized. The next morning, Germany's declarations of war against Russia and France became known, and soon after, England's declaration against Germany. The calamity had broken loose. Like a ghost of what the near future might have brought me, had criminal madness not seized the reins of destiny, the first pages of the French translation of Kain und Abel arrived from Paris on that same day. They had been dispatched several days earlier. The mail was already being inspected. Across the lake, in French Evian, in Lucille's fairyland, it had suddenly grown dark. Only a few lights burned. There, the men had to go out into the fields, not to gather the fruits of the harvest, but to exchange violent death with other men, human brothers. A telegram arrived from Darmstadt announcing that the court theater would not open for the time being. The Darmstadt contract could no longer be maintained and was replaced by a friendly arrangement such as the theater was able to offer under the circumstances. My new opera was performed there and elsewhere several times, but by no means as often as might have been expected, since many theaters that had accepted it were unable to present it because of military conscriptions. The connection with foreign countries, which I had so joyfully welcomed, was naturally severed.